Okay. Live. Nobody's here. This is not a great start. Let's see what happens here. All right, well, while we're waiting, why don't we open up Lightroom? All right, we got one. Slow start to today. We're just gonna chill out here and wait for a few more people to join. Maybe I picked a weird time, but this is when it's possible for me. So I'm not sure who's here right now, who that one person is. Say hello. Let me know who you are. Put it in the comments. We got so many beverages today. We've got coffee. We've got, let me see if I can show you that. You gonna focus? Focus. Yeah, mandarin orange sparkling water. Cute. And regular water, just in case I get, just in case I'm not feeling good. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Throw in the chat where you're from, and that way I can see who's actually here, because otherwise I have no idea who I'm talking to. This might be just a cozy little chat between a few of us, which would be cool too. I put down the idea that I wanted to talk about today, but it doesn't mean that's necessarily what we're going to talk about. Yeah, it's been a week. We'll get into that. It's been a kind of crazy week. I want to unpack some of it, but we'll wait till we get a few more folks showing up. It's like crazy rain out there right now, which is weird for February being in Ontario, but we're getting freezing rain, so that's cool. Hi, folks. Seriously, though, somebody put in the chat where you're from and who I'm talking to. Otherwise, it'll be very sad and lonely. I have a decision to make that I need your help with, actually. So here, we're going to... One sec. Okay, cool. Okay. So a little while ago, I did a collaboration with ThigPoc. They sent me their 28, 35, and 50 millimeter f1.4 Samaras, not the C line, just the regular photography line. And basically they're allowing me to keep one of those lenses. The rest I have to give back. I'm trying to figure out which one I should keep. Now, here's my conundrum. So right now in my kit, I don't actually have a 28 millimeter prime or a 35 millimeter prime. I do have a 50. So the 50 is basically out. Now in my manual side of things, I have the 40 millimeter f1.2 from Voigtlander. So it's making me think the 35 should be out and I should just go with the 28. But the 35 is also a focal length that I don't use a lot, but I would like to use more. So I'm kind of trying to figure out if that makes sense. What would you do? If you had to pick between 28, 35, and 50, what would you go with as your go-to focal length? Let me know. Because I don't really know what to do about it. And I know that I have to give it back soon. So that's unfortunate because I'd like to just keep all of them ideally, but that's not going to happen. This is funny. If you look back here, I put out a video yesterday that was all about the ultra wide lenses, the Tamron 16-30 and then the 17-28 from Nikon, which is basically just a rehoused Tamron lens, the first version, and just about the differences between them and whether or not they're worthwhile, because I have the 16-30 and I asked Nikon to send me that 17-28. If you watched the last live stream, you would have seen that. And so I was doing like a comparison of focal lengths, and I put a big sheet back there and just drew on it a bunch. It's fun to draw on walls, super fun to draw on walls. And yeah. So that's still up because I didn't have time to take it down. Go watch that video if you like wide angle stuff. It was amazingly because do you guys know Brandon Talbot? He is another YouTuber. He put out a video about the 16 to 30 and we were chatting about it a little bit, and he ended up giving that lens back, and I said, I've got this 17 to 28, I'm curious about it. So I said I would check some stuff out, and why not throw together a dumb video about it. That's what I did. Okay, there's one person in the chat who said hello with a little heart. That's nice. Where are you from? Where you? I know you've been in one of these before. I'm pretty sure I recognize the name, but I don't. I don't have a good memory. I don't have a good memory at all. So let me know where you're messaging from. Were you from the UK? Is that right, or is that way off? Or Florida? I don't know. Anyways, okay. So things we're going to talk about today. I want to talk about the gist of this is like becoming a professional photographer, and that's in quotations for a reason, because I think the term is kind of silly. Minneapolis, sick. Okay, that's neither of the things I said. Sorry. So yeah, I want to talk about being a professional photographer and what that means and how to approach it from a business standpoint, as well as just sort of like in your head, how to think about being a photographer full-time or part-time or what have you. I want to talk about, if you guys didn't see it, Cam Mackey put out a video yesterday that was really incredible. I want to talk about that. I messaged him about it. It was just awesome. And finally, not to bury the lead too much here, but I want to talk about a video I put out a couple days ago. I think it was called Take the Photo or Take the Photograph or Photograph Everything or something like that. I gotta look it up. Let me look it up. It was called Photograph It All. Photograph It All. Did y'all happen to watch that video? If you did, you would know that it's a pretty heavy subject that I want to unpack. So for those of you who are here right now, at least I'll say that that's a bit of like a trigger warning, maybe, that what I talk about in that video is pretty extreme. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. And I lost several followers. I don't know how many, maybe 10, 12 followers because of it. But I think that's okay. I've put out a few videos lately that have lost me some followers for expressing my actual feelings about things. So yeah, that's okay. Anyways, let's talk about becoming a professional photographer and what that means. So for the few of you that are hanging out right now, do you do photography? Are you doing photography professionally? Is it a hobby for you? That would be good to know as we're chatting about this. But basically, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I'm going to be giving like kind of a lecture is not the right word, but a talk about the idea of being a professional photographer and how to go about that. And I kind of just want to workshop some of it a little bit. So you're kind of like my guinea pigs here, because one sec. Ooh, sorry if that was awful audio. I have a lot of thoughts on it, some of which I think are not going to be the most uplifting, some of which are going to be very uplifting. So here's the basic idea of this talk is about like what it means to be a professional photographer, where that line is drawn. There's a lot of talk about this online, and one of the things that I try and do with my channel is to make sure that oftentimes, most of the time, if I'm ever talking about gear or tech, I'm actually using it on professional shoots. And when I say professional shoots, it just means paid shoots. There's nothing beyond that I think has to matter. If your work is being paid for, I think that makes you a professional. If your work's not being paid for, there's cases where you could still be a professional, so to speak, too, where, you know, if you're getting published all the time or something like that, I think that, you know, just because you don't generate income from it, maybe you don't want to generate income from it, that's totally fine. Because of that, I would say being a professional photographer is sort of like an amorphous term. How we use it in the YouTube discourse, I think, is like people use it kind of derisively to call out people who don't actually people who don't make their money off of getting paid for shoots are immediately kind of denigrated and turned into just like, oh, you're just a YouTuber. Speaking of just a YouTuber, there's Cam Mackey. Yo, Cam, one of the things I said before you got here, I think, is that I want to talk about your video yesterday. So don't leave yet. Let me know if you heard me say that, and if you didn't already leave. If you're just leaving some love, I appreciate it. But I want to talk about your video from yesterday because that's really important. So we'll circle onto that if Cam's still around, and maybe he can leave some comments there. But the idea of being like a professional photographer for me came about because I really wanted to pursue photography full time. So if we roll back, I went to school originally. I in high school I started taking photos. And I got into a photography program at Ryerson University here in Canada. And I dropped out within a week. And I sold all my camera gear, and I didn't touch a camera until, I don't know, it was like 5 or 6 years that I just completely took a break from it and decided that I did not want to pursue that. And that was largely because at the time, I was living on an organic vegetable farm, raising vegetables, and it just felt more important at the time to do that than it did to do other things. And so that's what I focused on. That being the case, it totally shifted my timeline from when I probably would have started to become a professional photographer after university to much, much later in my life, because I picked up a camera again when I moved to LA. It was really when I started taking photos again. But that was short-lived as well. It was mainly on film, and I was kind of on again, off again from that point up until I was maybe 30. When I was 30, COVID hit, and the job I was doing dried up, and I owned a couple of cafes. I sold my cafes, and I wanted to focus full-time on just doing photography. And that's what I decided to do. It took a couple of years to kind of get to that point, but at some point, I became a full-time photographer. What that means is I was generating all my income from photography, videography, and working in that photo video space. I was doing things like editing for YouTubers. I was doing things like headshots for corporate clients. I was doing weddings and fucking birthday parties and a whole bunch of different shit. Like basically real estate, you name it, I was doing it. And that's, I would say, the life of a lot of burgeoning photographers is that you start by just doing whatever it is you can do to get by. And so that usually means like, I think for a lot of people, the barrier to entry is pretty low with things like real estate or something like that, because you just have to have a camera with a wide angle lens, and everyone knows a real estate agent. And basically what you can do is just say, let me do this. I'll do a couple listings for free or for like $50 or something or whatever, so that you can get used to how to do it. And then you kind of go about that. So that was kind of the start for me. I was getting paid by real estate agents and stuff like that. And then I moved into doing weddings. And once I moved into doing weddings, it was about the same time I started doing YouTube stuff as well. And so it was a nice way to kind of mesh things, because I could take gear, go shoot it at a wedding, film myself shooting at a wedding, or talk about it after, show the pictures. And I had direct proof that like I'm getting paid to make images with this gear, so I can talk about whether or not it actually is a worthwhile thing to have in my gear list. And that's where things started to kind of like the ball kind of started rolling. I started to get some more corporate stuff that was higher paying, and that kind of thing. So that's been sort of my quick journey into full-time photography. But in this past year, I basically decided to take a step back and to cut down the amount of photography I was doing professionally quite substantially. And I took a job. I work with a company now, and it's totally not entirely unrelated to photography, but my role is not photography related. I do some photography for the company still, and that's really fun. But generally speaking, I decided to remove myself from full time. And that was largely because I wanted to focus on just photographing the things I wanted to photograph. And that for me was getting rid of a lot of those corporate clients. I still wanted to do weddings because I enjoy shooting weddings. I know a lot of people don't enjoy shooting weddings, but I do. And I wanted to focus on that, and I wanted to focus on the YouTube channel a little bit, and basically just have a little bit more consistency with my pay that didn't require me to be out of the house quite as much, because we have a growing family and stuff like that. But I want to talk about one of the pitfalls of becoming a professional photographer that I found that was also one of the reasons why I wanted to step back, why I wanted to do some stuff for YouTube, and why I think some people maybe think they want to be a full-time photographer or they want to be a professional photographer, but why that might not be the best choice for them. So, anybody else here at the moment? Say what up. Say hello. If you're joining. One of the issues I found in this whole journey, and it's something I'm still trying to kind of push myself out of, and it's really difficult, is that when you decide to become a full-time or part-time or professional photographer, you start getting paid for your shoots. Getting paid for your shoots is really rad. It's super exciting, and it's an exciting part of photography when you can get paid to make images. That's huge. The thing is, sometimes it can lead to this thing where you basically stop picking up your camera unless it's to get paid. And I know a lot of people this has happened to, whether it's YouTubers or not, like people who are only picking up their camera when they need to because they're getting paid to do so. And it limits, I think, their creativity a little bit. It limits their ability to grow. And I'm speaking about this as somebody who's had this affect him. So this is something that I've had an issue with, where I have seen myself get away from doing as much creative work because I get so busy doing the paid work, and then because I'm doing the paid work, I don't have time for other stuff, or I just get kind of lost in that world a little bit too much. So then I don't have this drive to make creative work. Somebody who I think does not get paid but just does creative work tends to keep that drive up a little bit longer because they're doing it for intrinsic value, not for extrinsic value, or not for like pay, or not for, any reasons. Yeah, I think that that's so important. And so Cam says, this is why I always circle back to film and older cameras. Exactly. I've got 2 bins over here of my cameras, and one of them is like my current digital setup. And then the other one is film cameras and old cameras. I've got like a Canon 5D, 5D2, a 6D. I've got a Minolta X700. I've got the EOS 1N. I've actually got 2 of those. One of them's broken right now. And a whole bunch of lenses for all of those. And the point of them for me is that they help me to remember to go back to creative stuff. And it's something, especially with film, because I think film helps in that creative way where it pushes the satisfaction out a bit, because you have to wait for it to get developed. You have to wait and see if what you did worked. The biggest issue I have with film, and I have a bunch of film stock right now, probably 30 rolls or something like that I will shoot. For me, being vegan, film stock is not vegan friendly. It uses like a gelatin on it in order to, or like a gel of some sort, like, I don't know exactly where it always comes from. It can come from different sources, but it's always animal sourced. And for me as a vegan, I struggle with that. But I have all this film stock and it's already here. It's already happened, so I might as well use it, right? But I will probably move away from shooting film after that's done. So I have a bunch of weddings where I'm shooting film this year. I have enough to get me through all that. And then, to be honest, I'm probably going to retire any film shooting just out of a form of ethical consistency. And that's not a judgment call on anybody else. I'm not saying anybody else should do that. That's just how I'm feeling about the whole thing. But what I will say is that over and over, I look at this stack of older cameras that I have, and I think to myself, like, man, I really just want to shoot with that. I would much prefer just to be shooting with my old DSLRs in a lot of cases. So that's an interesting side to it all that I think can help with creativity. And when you're doing paid work, you can't always do that because you might need higher res files. You might need, more accurate autofocus, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of reasons, but that's an important part of it. So that's just some thoughts on being a professional photographer, I guess. If you're somebody who wants to pursue that, I guess if I were to like try and provide any kind of advice, it would be like, shoot a lot of spec work. create work that you want to make more of, and that will help you to get that work. However, if you want to do certain types of work, it's going to be really hard to do it if you're in certain places. And the reality is, if you want to do like tons of high level commercial work, it's going to be quite difficult if you live in a super rural area to get those clients. It's just not how it works, unfortunately. It's not impossible. And what I would say is if you can make a strong enough social presence for yourself, you can overcome that kind of stuff. If you can create good enough work that you're recognized and you can market yourself effectively, you can get flown to go do shoots and stuff like that. But generally speaking, if you want to get into that high-end commercial world, you're going to find it difficult if you don't have access to it easily. That's not 100% the case all the time, but that is something that I think you need to kind of factor in. Otherwise, if you want to be just, let's say you want to start shooting weddings, here's a recommendation. If you want to start shooting weddings, find local photographers who are shooting weddings, and don't just ask them to shoot for them. That's not helpful. That doesn't do anything for them. If they need a second photographer, they probably know one that's better. Or like at very least they know one that's done it enough that they can trust them. If you're brand new, the best thing I think you could do would be to reach out and say like, hey, I live in the area. I'm really looking into the whole idea of getting into wedding photography, for example, or portrait photography, or whatever the version of what you want to do is. I think you could say a couple things. One would be, do you offer any kind of workshops, or do you have any recommendations for that kind of thing? Or can I buy you a coffee and ask you some questions? Or if you ever need somebody to carry your bags or to assist you on something, I'd love to volunteer to do that. You don't need to pay me. And here's the secret weapon, and I have talked about this on my channel so fucking much that it feels lazy to talk about at this point and lame, because you should know this. But if you want to work with somebody, the best thing you can do is to offer to shoot BTS, because everybody wants it. Everybody needs clips. I'm sure, and it depends on what it's going to be used for, but like the amount of people that are just like, I need to be more on social media, including myself. Like I need to post more, but I never do it because I never make it. If I had somebody who was just doing that for me, that would be a huge help. So if you want somebody to help you to further your career, you have to offer something in return. And the best thing I've found is to offer BTS. It's how I got to know a lot of the YouTubers I know now. People like, I don't know, Kofi. Kofi's somebody I met because I reached out and I was like, yo, if you ever need BTS for something, hit me up. I used to work in the film industry, and I know how to grip. So I just said like, I'll do anything. You guys got a spec shoot. Don't need to pay me. I just want to work with you. And now we're homies because we did some work together. He's a good dude, and that's how we got to know each other. Same with people like, if you know Magic Wedding Photographer or Sam Hurd or some of these other wedding photographers that I really looked up to and I respect. I just said, if you need some BTS, let me know. I'm happy to do it for you. Just keep in mind that when you're doing that, it has to be coming from a place where you're just trying to offer something good. And if they don't need it, they don't need it. But I would say start with an offer of like, can I pay you for your time, or buy you a coffee or something, ask you some questions. Or if you ever need anything, like, can I offer BTS, is a great thing to do. Just the more you can offer to people to give in exchange rather than just taking is really, really important. So if you're looking to get into professional photography, you don't know where to start, figure out what kind of genre you want to start shooting in and exploring, and then find people who are doing great work around you and offer BTS. That's my big recommendation. If anybody lives in the Kitchener-Waterloo area and they want to help me with BTS, holler, because I'll happily bring you along. Okay. I doubt he's still in the chat because he's a busy man, but Cam Mackey put out a video yesterday, and I wanted to unpack a little bit about it. Basically, Cam is an Indigenous photographer, videographer. You probably know his stuff, filmmaker. He's amazing. He put out this awesome video yesterday all about going to his res for a big event that they were having there. And I want to talk less about the video as a whole, and I want to talk a bit more about like the reaction to the video. So the video opens with him basically talking about how like his skin color is basically under attack in his own country, a country that people came and forcibly took from his people. And he even mentions in it something that I think is really cool. He talks about having multiple bloodlines. You know, he's not just indigenous, but the fact that his skin color is the way it is means he's only seen one way, which I thought was super powerful, super cool. The reason this speaks to me so much is my whole family is indigenous of Mexico and like Arizona, California area, and on my dad's side at least. And so I live in Canada. I'm light skinned like my mom, but that still resonates with me. I still have family down there. I still understand that idea. And what's so interesting is like, this was probably one of the most powerful things he's made on his channel. It had almost nothing to do with gear. He talked about the gear he used, but it wasn't about the gear. And he got like 0 views compared to what he gets. Like if he put out a video about whatever that, I don't know, pick a lens, pick a camera. If he put out a video about like some Leica, I don't fucking know. Cam, what do you make stuff about? If he put out a video about gear and then got the same kind of numbers he got now, it would be like, it just wouldn't happen. He gets so much more views when he talks about gear, like we all do. And so people say like they're tired of hearing like people shill about gear and stuff, but the numbers don't lie. That's what y'all want to see. And you specifically might not be in that camp, but most people, that's what they want to see. So he put out this really heartfelt, real, beautiful story about his people, and it's basically crickets, which is really unfortunate because, what just happened? I need to plug in a light. One sec. She dark. Technical difficulties, homies. Okay, let's do this. Gonna work? Yeah, sick. Okay, here's the other thing. So there was a response from somebody on his video that basically was like, it was the equivalent of like, shut up and take photos, and like, don't complain about the fact that like your land was taken or something. It was a fucking lame argument that didn't actually make sense when you broke it down. But the idea being, people see something they're not comfortable with and they need to attack it. People are not necessarily interested in hearing what we as YouTubers have to say at a deeper level. And that's very obvious when you put out a video that has this deeper meaning and it's not absorbed in the same way. You know, it was all out of pocket. He said he spent a couple $1,000 making that video and he's not going to make anything off of it, which sucks. But at the same time, that's why we do it, right? We make gear videos because people like gear videos, and then that allows us to create more of the meaningful work we want to create. So just some thoughts. Go watch the video. It's incredible. It's so good. And if you want to learn more about indigenous culture, find out what the indigenous tribe of your area is, and just try and meet some people, try and do some learning. And honestly, it will inspire you to learn more about your own heritage too, which will then in turn allow you to be more informed about the type of content you want to create, whether it's like online or whether you want to create more work around that kind of stuff. Highly recommend it. And I touched on something there about the idea of people being uncomfortable with things that they're not used to seeing. So gear videos is what people care about. It's how I built this channel. It's how a lot of people build their channels. But that's not necessarily what most of us want to talk about. For me, I want to talk about photography. I want to talk about, I like talking about gear. It's fine. Whatever. I don't give a shit. But largely what I want to talk to people about is like real issues that matter through photography. And I put out a video recently called Photograph It All, where that was the whole intention. The video was about last Saturday, not the one we just had, the one before. I got a call and I immediately had to fly down to Mexico because my mom was down there in the ICU on life support. So my brothers and I got on a plane, and I brought my camera, of course, and we went down to see my mom in the ICU, and she was sedated. she was on life support. So she had a machine breathing for her. She had, I won't get into the details, but the point is, I put out this video talking about that real experience, that heavy experience, that difficult experience, showing all the photos that I took, and lots of good comments, super kind comments. I really appreciate that. And more views than I thought, but I think that's because I didn't call it something like, hey, my fucking mom died. What I did was I just talked about the experience. And I lost a bunch of followers or subscribers, whatever you call it, from that video. And I get it. It's a hard subject, but it's a very real subject. It's something that we all have to reckon with one day. Hopefully. Because it's part of being human. So we were down there for like 6 days, and I took a bunch of photos. And I came home for my stepson's birthday. And because my little baby needed me home and my partner needed me home. And then 2 days later, I got a call from my stepdad that she had passed. It's the most real thing I could talk about on my channel. And I talked a lot about why I chose to speak about it. And it was because of the last conversation I had with her before she got sick, which was all about being yourself and being honest with your work. Yeah. So that's what I tried to do. And I'm not like a filmmaker. I made a documentary last year, actually, that was kind of cool. But I'm not like a filmmaker. I take photos. And so a lot of what I'm trying to do with this channel now is to focus in on the idea of putting out content that feels real and authentic to me as a photographer and what I want to say, create more interesting work, focus more on creating that work and having fun while doing it, and bring you along on that journey. It's not going to look good all the time. It's not going to be simple all the time, but it is really, really important to me that I share that. And sorry, I'm kind of just thinking about it. Let's see, we got a couple comments here. Cam, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's a fucking bummer. It's not what you expect. You know, I love Mexico. I fucking love Mexico. It's not what I expect when I go down to Mexico. It's not why I'm there to photograph typically, right? So Live in Awe says, the loss of your mom is hard to process. You keep doing you, and if people can't deal with it, they can go elsewhere. Plenty of YouTube channels that stay at service level. 100%. And I knew it wouldn't be authentic to who I am to like not talk about it. It wouldn't be authentic to me to create a channel that kept everything super surface level. Also because I'm just not good at that. Like, I'm not going to make slick looking videos. Everything I make is going to be, I try and go from like start to finish on a video as quickly as fucking possible. Which means if I have an idea, I try and film it that day. I try and edit it that day and try and release it that day. So that's why you don't see a lot of like crazy transitions. You don't see a lot of graphics. You don't see a lot of music and stuff, because I just want to get ideas out. To me, this platform is about just sharing ideas for me. I love what other people are doing with it, using it as a platform for their filmmaking. I think that's awesome. For me, it's just about having conversations and about exploring ideas. So, this channel is always going to go deeper, much deeper than it's gone in the past is kind of the goal, and shifting away from what we've done. And hopefully enough people stick along for the ride that we can shift the narrative of what the channel is to be more about that. So that's that. We're going to call it there. I appreciate all of you. Like I said, I got to decide what Thypoc lens to keep. I'm thinking the 28. I love 28. And it'll pair nicely with the Voigtlander 40. A little gear talk at the end here just to make everybody feel good again. And I appreciate y'all, truly. let me know in the comments on this video and the other videos what you want to see. I have a bunch of ideas of what I want to talk about, what I want to explore through photography. And let's keep the train going. Appreciate y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.